Let us take a trip through a new perspective. A trip through a thing, not a place. A penetrating trip of the mind to observe a structure unlike any you've ever seen. A model existing in thought or as an idea of an example or pattern of something, but not having a physical or concrete existence. Are you grasping for understanding? Are you searching for a way through? Because if you don't catch up, you'll be left behind in the abstract paradigm. Today's topic discusses a potentially dangerous revelation that may or may not be known by those charged with defending humanity. One thing is for sure, if they don't know this by now, then being caught off guard could spell disaster for everyone. There are those that study alien technology in hopes of learning more about otherworldly visitors. But one thing is important to remember when discussing first contact. No matter the curiosity, one must operate cautiously. It has been debated that otherworldly visitors have behaved both positively and nefariously towards humans. Some would say that no matter the species, no matter their world, you will always find a good and a bad. While a positive otherworldly experience is intriguing if not exciting, one must also prepare for nefarious visitors. And to do that, we must examine the sparse things we know about aliens, and then try to piece things together as best as possible. Today's topic is about an alien weapon and a technological capability that has been staring most right in their face. Alien weapon, Calcis Lux. Earth, Siberia, Russia, 1993. After Mikhail Gorbachev dissolved the KGB Top Secret Intelligence Administration in 1991, a lot of the material from that department found their way abroad. In particular, to the CIA. It appears that the U.S. intelligence obtained a 250-page file on an attack by a UFO on a military unit in Siberia. The files contained documents, photographs, drawings, and testimonies by actual participants in the events. One of the CIA representatives referred to this case as a horrific picture of revenge on the part of extraterrestrial creatures, a picture that makes one's blood freeze. According to the KGB materials, a low-flying spaceship in the shape of a saucer appeared above a military unit that was conducting routine training maneuvers. It was then that a surface-to-air missile was launched, striking the UFO. It fell to Earth not far away, and when the soldiers went to investigate, they saw that 5 short humanoids with large heads and large black eyes had emerged from it. It is stated in the testimonies of 2 soldiers that survived the attack that the aliens came close together and then merged into a single object that acquired a spherical shape. That object began to buzz and hiss sharply, and then became a brilliant white light. In seconds, the sphere grew much bigger and then exploded by flaring up with an extremely bright light. At that moment, 23 soldiers who had watched the phenomenon turned into stone poles. Only 2 soldiers who stood in the shade and were less exposed to the luminous explosion survived. The KGB report goes on to say that the remains of the UFO and the petrified soldiers were transferred to a secret scientific research institute near Moscow. Specialists assume that a source of energy that is still unknown to Earthlings instantly changed the structure of the soldiers' living organisms, having transformed it into a substance whose molecular composition is no different than limestone. What were the figures so curious about that they decided to get that close to a military base? Do extraterrestrials have the ability to turn a person into stone? Could there be other instances that tie extraterrestrial visitors to such a devastating weapon? Some theorists believe there are. First mentioned in Naturalis Historia, written around 79 AD by Pliny the Elder, there exists a legendary creature, fire-spitting, extremely venomous, capable of turning someone into stone with a single glance. This legendary creature has taken many shapes and names, but in whatever form it comes in, it is reputed to be the king of the serpents, the basilisk. One origin describes the beast being born from an old rooster. If his death is exactly at midnight, under a clear sky and full moon, he will lay a soft, leathery egg that in a few days will hatch into a fully formed, infantile version of the creature. But could there be a more otherworldly explanation, one that may include genetic modifications? Over many years and changing background stories, the basilisk acquired another name, the cockatrice. But how far did this supposed mythological creature's reputation extend? In fact, there is another source that refers to the basilisk that may give this mythological beast a more extraterrestrial origin. The Holy Bible. There are many versions of the Bible now, translated and interpreted mostly the same, but something interesting arises when you search through the biblical texts for mythological beasts. Isaiah 14:29. Rejoice not, O Philistia, all of thee, because the rod that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a basilisk, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. There are several versions of Isaiah that mention either the basilisk, the dragon, or the cockatrice. Now known predominantly as a European mythological creature, the basilisk was first mentioned by Pliny the Elder in his book Naturalis Historia. What some may not know about the author is that Pliny the Elder was also a citizen of Pompeii, the site where Mount Vesuvius erupted and transformed the people of the city into stone. Is this just a coincidence, or is there a connection between Pliny the Elder's basilisk and his city of residence? Some theorists have no problem accepting that the basilisk has an otherworldly history, but to others, a coincidence is a coincidence until it is proven to be a pattern. Were basilisks genetically modified creatures that ancient aliens used for reasons unknown? Are there any connections between the basilisk and any other creatures? For that, we must explore a tragic tale of a beautiful priestess scorned by her goddess. Ancient Greece. In Greek mythology, there are stories of gods and goddesses and powerful creatures. One such powerful creature had a tragic and complex story. Just like other works of art, the story is open for interpretation, but one theorist is suggesting a different perspective. Her name was Medusa. It is said she was once a beautiful priestess with long flowing hair. But after what happened to her, all of that changed. Born a Gorgon, Medusa was not always known as a monstrous creature. She was born beautiful, and even became a priestess for the goddess Athena, who required her priestesses to remain virgins for life. But her beauty was too tempting for another, one that wanted to spoil something of Athena's, the god Poseidon. Poseidon, angry and tired of his advances being rejected by Medusa, forced himself upon her on the steps of Athena's temple. After this, it is said that Athena cursed Medusa and sent her to live in the ruins of an ancient temple on a deserted island. Athena's curse turned Medusa's once flowing hair into snakes and gave Medusa a terrible gaze that turned a person into stone. But some ancient alien theorists believe this story is hiding a much deeper secret. With such a tragic circumstance, it seems odd that Athena would curse someone for not being able to stop something as powerful as a god. And if what Medusa did was so horrible, then why has she and her symbol become a reference to averting evil and guardianship? How does offending a goddess and being punished lead to such a benevolent characteristic? In ancient times, this concept may not have been understood, but in modern times, it is less difficult to consider an alternative series of events may have occurred. But what do snakes or something reptilian have to do with all of this? Could it have been possible that Medusa fought against Poseidon so fiercely that it cost her her life? And instead of being cursed or genetic modification, is it possible that Athena brought Medusa back to life using alien technology? But what evidence could there be that connects a mythological Gorgon to extraterrestrial technology? The solution to this puzzle may lie in another famous text known for its UFO documentation, the Mahabharata. In the Mahabharata, there is a creature known as Garuda, which appears after a catastrophic attack and is said to eat snakes. Garuda is believed to have its own backstory, but some ancient alien theorists say Garuda was more than just a mythological creature. It was a spaceship. But what could Garuda have to do with connecting the dots of this mystery? What clues does Garuda reveal? The following footage is important in the discovery of a new alien technology. Pay close attention as the puzzle slowly comes together.
Soviet scientists had 50 times the normal radioactivity. They found pottery that had been fused. Then walls were heated to such an extent they became vitrified or glass-like, suggesting some sort of ancient nuclear weapon involved.
According to the ancient Hindu texts, after the carnage at Mohenjo-Daro, a fearsome flying monster appeared in the sky. It was called Garuda.
Each and every time he would show up descending from the sky, he would create hurricane winds, and upon his descent, the earth would shake, dust would fly up in the air, and everyone in the vicinity would be absolutely terrified. Now, here we have a carving of Garuda, and if we look at the top, yes, they look like feathers, but at the same time, they could be interpreted as big, gigantic flames.
If Mohenjo-Daro was in fact the site of an ancient nuclear attack, could it be possible that Garuda was a mutant beast created as a byproduct of intense radioactivity? But if, as modern scientists believe, Garuda was not likely the result of genetic mutation, then what could explain its existence?
The Mahabharata states that Garuda was born from this raging inferno. And what's really intriguing is the fact that in some text passages, we can read that the exterior of Garuda did not consist of feathers, but of metal. Now, what kind of a bird is that? No bird is made of metal unless it's a type of machine.
Garuda was a flying vehicle, and Garuda was able to travel to the moon and around the earth with very, very high speed. Garuda even was able to shock mankind with lightning, which fell from heaven.
Garuda was considered to be a snake killer. In fact, Garuda needed to eat snakes in order to survive. Now compare an airplane at the airport today hooked up to a fuel line. Isn't that airplane eating a snake?
Was Garuda actually an ancient alien ship? Were the snakes in fact linked to the alien technology? If these dots truly connect, then they spell out an alien technology that has a very unexpected power. The basilisk was a serpent with the ability to turn one to stone with a glance. This same power was given to Medusa after acquiring snake-like hair. The same power that remained with Medusa's head when it was removed and later used as a weapon. And now Garuda may reveal that ancient humans may have perceived fuel or energy transfer cables as snakes, ironically shedding new light on the matter. Could it be possible that extraterrestrials have the technology to turn humans into stone? There appears to be evidence that such a technology exists. But what would truly confirm the existence of this extraterrestrial technology and whether or not it is utilized as a weapon is to find evidence of a weapon with this effect being used. For that, we return to the Holy Bible and the story of a man whose kindness saved the life of himself and his family.
And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city.
Lot, his wife and daughters, all fled from the terrible destruction of Sodom.
But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all.
But Lot's wife looked back toward her beloved Sodom, violating the angel's command, and was thus turned into a pillar of salt. 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . 」 . . 」 . 」 . . 」 . . . 」 . . . 」 . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . On the side of the structure, this swirling pattern is different from any type of sedimentary rock or soil that would normally contain horizontal, even layers. These swirling designs were also seen in other ashen formations in the cities. This is evidence of extreme heat, up to 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit, where thermal ionization occurs, when the electrons repel and attract, forming these unusual swirling designs. In Lot's day, this area was a swirling cauldron of death and destruction, rained down from the Lord in heaven. Strange anomalies can be seen here, such as these fragile layers of material which disintegrate when touched. The limestone buildings in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were totally transformed into ash by the consuming fire of the Lord. Evidence of this destruction is revealed in the white gypsum anomalies in the area, including unusual shapes of chalk-like material, which is not found in other parts of the country. At the time of Elijah on Mount Carmel, the Lord sent down a superheated fire from heaven, consuming the stone altar and sacrifice, turning them into ashes.
Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench.
As the account is described, Lot, a kind person in a corrupt city, was given a warning by angels in disguise. Having put himself and family in danger to save the angels, they told him to leave the city before it was destroyed. They also told him not to look back as the city was destroyed. But while leaving, Lot's wife turned to witness the destruction, and as a result, she was turned to stone. There is something strange about this account. How could Lot's wife be assaulted by an attack they were far enough away to avoid? And if they were all leaving as a group, then even radiation would have affected the entire family. But instead, the account chooses to focus on the fact that no one was supposed to look at the destruction. Could this be because the attack on the cities used a weapon far different than previously considered? Some ancient alien theorists suggest that a nuclear explosion or meteor could have caused the annihilation of several cities, but then evidence of sulfur and brimstone pepper the land to suggest a weapon unlike those currently employed, a weapon of terror and brilliance of light.
Fire photon torpedoes. Photon torpedoes, fire.
Photon torpedoes ready, sir. Fire. Mr. Worf, ready photon torpedoes. Set to detonate on impact.
It is unclear what effect a photon torpedo would have.
But what ties this weapon of terror to the destruction of a handful of cities? The answer to this question is surprisingly clearly accounted for on what are known as the Lost Tablets of Enki.
On that day, on that fateful day, Enlil to Ninurta the signal sent. To Mount Mashu Ninurta departed, behind him Nergal followed. The mount and the plain in the heart of the fourth region Ninurta from the sky surveyed. With a squeezing in his heart to Nergal a sign he gave. Keep off to him he signaled. Then the first terror weapon from the skies Ninurta let loose. The top of Mount Mashu was a flash it sliced off. The mount's innards in an instant it melded. Above the place of the celestial chariots the second weapon he unleashed. With a brilliance of 7 suns the plain's rocks into a gushing womb were made. The earth shook and crumbled. The heavens after the brilliance were darkened. With burnt and crushed stones was the plain of the chariots covered. Of all the forest that the plain had surrounded, only tree stems were left standing. It is done, Ninurta from the skyship. his black divine bird, words shouted. The control that Marduk and Nabu so coveted, of it they are forever deprived. Then to emulate Ninurta Nergal desired, to be Era the annihilator his heart him urged. Following the king's highway to the verdant valley of the 5 cities he flew. In the verdant valley where Nabu the people was converting, Nergal as a caged bird to squash him planned. Over the 5 cities, one after the other, Era upon each from the skies a terror weapon sent. The 5 cities of the valley he finished off, to desolation they were overturned. With fire and brimstone were they upheaveled, all that lived there to vapor was turned. By the awesome weapons were mountains toppled, where the sea waters were barred, the bolt broke open. Down in the valley the sea's waters poured, by the waters was the valley flooded. When upon the city's ashes the waters poured, steam to the heavens was rising. It is done, Era in the sky ship shouted. In Nergal's heart there was no more vengeance. Surveying the evil handiwork, the 2 heroes by what they saw were puzzled.
Sometimes the answers you are searching for are right in front of you. And sometimes they avoid you almost intelligently enough to cause suspicion. But if you search deep enough for the truth, then the answers may surprise you. What does knowing about a terrifying alien weapon do for you in your everyday life? Nothing. What does knowing about this weapon do for you should you ever see something like it? Also, probably nothing. Because by then, it may be too late. But if you are far enough away, then don't turn around. Don't look at the light. And don't get left behind in the abstract paradigm.